39 years ago, a KGB defector sat down for an interview, and he described some things that I would say are pretty darn disturbing, because he was predicting effectively what's happened. He talked about how the KGB would use brainwashing to destabilize a society to the point where they could fully demoralize a society and therefore turn it against itself and make it totally ineffective. Sound familiar? This is Alexandrovich Bezmenov. Some of you may have seen it already, but probably you haven't. I mean, I hadn't. I was really struck by this. Really, really struck. He said that Russia had a long-term goal of demoralizing the United States. I mean, I would say you could add maybe China to that too, and a few others along the way that don't like us very much. But this is very interesting because he predicted that they would make it very difficult for people to understand what was what. And in doing so, would bring America to its knees. This is pretty chilling stuff. He said, and I'm going to quote here, that 85% of the work that they were doing in foreign espionage was actually, quote, a slow process, which we call either ideological subversion, active measures, or psychological warfare. So what does that actually mean, right? What is psychological warfare? He said, it's actually a very kind of legitimate process. You see it with your own eyes. It's all happening out there in the open, right? That's what we're seeing right now. But you kind of change the perception of reality for people. I quote, "What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interest of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country." He describes this process as a great brainwashing that has 4 basic stages. The first is called demoralization, and it takes 15 to 20 years to achieve. And you do this by going to the colleges, by going to the students. You change their thinking at the educational level. Wow, right? I mean, you think about the 60s and the hippies and how things started to change then. You see, they wanted to take America down because America had emerged as the hegemonic power of the world after World War II. And so you get into the school system. You start there. You start demoralizing. And they did. And then you continue it. You demoralize, and it becomes a process that is effectively, in his words, irreversible. And that demoralized person no longer knows what's what. And they can look truth straight in the face, reality straight in the face, and try and tell you it's not true. I mean, what do you think's going on with these kids on TikTok that are saying that Osama bin Laden, we have to understand where he was coming from, and somehow they're trying to justify 9/11, just like Hamas isn't even trying to. These same kids are trying to justify, and they did. I mean, they at Harvard they said that it was Israel's fault. They're justifying the deaths of 1,400 innocent people. But I mean, Hamas is just saying it didn't happen. I mean, this is what is most dangerous and most frightening. This destabilization through the creation of polarized tribes. Again, he's saying this in 1984, okay? Is actually going to create an environment in which people flat out reject facts in favor of narratives and opinions. I mean, you don't know if day is night, night is day. You don't know if you're a man or a woman. You can't even follow a conversation because suddenly they could mean he or she. And they keep talking about they.